Let me move on to foreign policy, because President Trump is expected to meet with Vladimir Putin at some point, perhaps in the coming week. What are you expecting?
Well, first of all, I've got to give the president a huge amount of credit here, Maria, because this is a major breakthrough for American diplomacy. If you go back, this war's been going on for over 3 years at this point, well over 1 million Russians and Ukrainian dead soldiers. And as the president says, the numbers are probably much higher than the official tally indicates. There has been no substantial breakthrough. And for 6 months, the president himself, he's asked me, he's asked Secretary Rubio, of course, Steve Witkoff, we have been aggressively working, trying to break the logjam. One of the most important logjams is that Vladimir Putin said that he would never sit down with Zelenskyy, the head of Ukraine, and the president has now got that to change. We're at a point now where we're now trying to figure out, frankly, scheduling and things like that around when these three leaders could sit down and discuss an end to this conflict. Now, what do I think is ultimately going to come out of this? Look, it's actually very simple. If you take where the current line of contact between Russia and Ukraine is, we're going to try to find some negotiated settlement that the Ukrainians and the Russians can live with, where they can live in relative peace, where the killing stops. It's not going to make anybody super happy. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians probably at the end of the day are going to be unhappy with it. But I don't think you can actually sit down and have this negotiation absent the leadership of Donald J. Trump. And the president said this to me today privately, said, look, maybe this works out, maybe it doesn't, but it's worth the effort, it's worth trying, and we're going to keep on using the diplomatic influence of the President of the United States to accomplish an end to this conflict. And Maria, you know this, but other people may not. If you look at the president's foreign policy accomplishments, if you look at Congo, Rwanda, a war that went on for 30 years, killed 6 million people, if you look at the number of hostages in Israel, in Gaza, who have been released and gone back to their families, if you look at Malaysia, Cambodia, you look at all of these terrible conflicts, the president has shown a willingness to be the president of peace. It's a big, big testament to the quality of American leadership. And it's an amazing thing to have a president who's working to stop the killing when you've had for so many generations presidents who didn't care about bringing peace to these very conflict-torn regions of the world. It's something I think all Americans should be proud of, whatever their political party.
Do you want Putin to meet with Zelenskyy before a meeting with President Trump?
I actually don't think it would be that productive. I think fundamentally the President of the United States has to be the one to kind of bring these two together. We're, of course, going to talk to the Ukrainians. I actually spoke with the Ukrainians this morning. Marco has been talking to them quite a bit. We're going to keep that dialogue open, but fundamentally this is something where the President needs to force President Putin and President Zelenskyy really to sit down to figure out their differences. We, of course, condemn the invasion that happened. We don't like that this is where things are, but you've got to make peace here. And the only way to make peace is to sit down and talk. You can't finger point. You can't, wag your finger at somebody and say, you're wrong, we're right. The way to peace is to have a decisive leader sit down and force people to come together.
You did not want to send taxpayer dollars to Ukraine and taxpayer funded arms to Ukraine. Do you feel that the current state of affairs improve that, whereas the U.S. will sell weapons to NATO countries and they will go ahead and send the weapons?
Well, two things on that. First of all, I think the reason that we reached this decisive moment, a real change in where we were, is because the president was willing to apply some significant pressure and actually say, if you don't come to the table, the American people, we're not going to get involved in this war directly. But we have a lot of economic points of leverage, and we're willing to use those to bring about peace. And that was a big thing that happened. To your point about weapons, what we said to the Europeans is simply, first of all, this is in your neck of the woods. This is in your back door. You guys have got to step up and take a bigger role in this thing. And if you care so much about this conflict, you should be willing to play a more direct and a more substantial way in funding this war yourself. I think the president, and I certainly think that America, we're done with the funding of the Ukraine war business. We want to bring about a peaceful settlement to this thing. We want to stop the killing. But Americans, I think, are sick of continuing to send their money, their tax dollars to this particular conflict. But if the Europeans want to step up and actually buy the weapons from American producers, we're okay with that, but we're not going to fund it ourselves anymore.